Good evening. It's July 1st, 2023, and the topic that I want to start from in this hopefully fruitful dialogue among myself and my listeners, whoever you may be, in whatever far-flung part of the internet space you are currently existing in. The topic is the long span of human history and imagining the future. So, the longest span really we know of in terms of pre-written word and at the same time advancement from the standpoint of dwelling in a city. It goes back 12,000 years or so. Could be a little bit more, could be a little bit less. The dates are a little bit relative, but there's in the hillside of a part of Turkey a number of excavations of city dwellings, and the one that's famous, but it may not be the oldest by any means, is Göbekli Tepe. And they had their little monoliths at Göbekli Tepe with various types of representations on them of different things like animals. In a certain sense, you could even think of the idea of cave paintings, and coming out of that at a certain time, the urge for humanity to have communication through symbolic forms of drawing at that point. It's become art. Today even we have the art that we can all embrace to our choosing on the internet right now. So we have our own form of writing on the cave walls, if you will. But there's a general advancement, undeniable, whereby you now can form on tablets, monoliths that you created, these symbols, and you can have an assemblage around them. They're much more advanced. It is advancement. There's an advancement there, form of communication. Just like writing was an advancement over that. However, there's an argument to be made that it wasn't, because the poetic singing before the written word of epics had a closeness to humanity's retelling of it as a function of humanity itself. So there's a trade-off in going to the written word, and that's part of a type of history, an intellectual history, a technological history, really, in which there's nodal points in that history that you can signify, like Göbekli Tepe is that area surrounding there. There's another few settlements, tepes, that may be earlier than that, but there's a nodal point, a break in the line of human development. Further along the line of human development, we have the development of writing. Then the communications themselves became possible over long distances with the advent of telephone and telegraph first, than what we've done in terms of broadcasting in the electromagnetic spectrum, which I'm riding on a wave right now myself. Those are all undeniable advancements. To deny that it's worthless of even arguing that. So there's been I just went 12,000 years ago from Göbekli Tepe, where you had a certain kind of communal agriculture of some sort, people living in a sort of a city, and whether or not they were worshiping, or we don't know. We know they have these tablets with drawings on them, and there were gathering places. That sort of seemed to be a fair assumption. But that's 12,000 years ago. So now, here we are today. Here I am talking to you on the internet in my home, able to communicate in this way. How can anyone, project 12,000 years hence in the future? I cannot possibly go out more than 200 years or so. I mean, I can see a way in a sort of certain sense of going beyond 200 years now. And that is the issue of the extension of a human lifespan. Because if that is successful, if instead of having a lifespan of, 75, 80 years or something around there, maybe I think it's a little bit higher in Japan. But instead of having that kind of lifespan, what if we had a lifespan that was healthy, not just, I just turned 70. We go through aging. There's inevitability that the health will go. It has to, because we're mortal. But we can look at increasing the lifespan far beyond what it is right now. We can look at that with the technologies that we have at our hands. But does that actually project what's going to 12,000 years hence? No. That may significantly alter the human lifespan or health span within the next 200 years. I can't go beyond that. I don't know what does that mean in terms of the way society might go? How do we sustain a population of that lifespan that's growing? Is it growing? That's a good question too. Right now, our population doesn't seem to be growing on this planet like it to sustain. If you just look at population economics, we may not be. Not in China. India's, that region, I guess, is growing. But Japan, for example, is shrinking. I think a lot of the European nations are kind of shrinking too. So there's 12,000 years. What's the population potential going to be? Maybe the population potential on this planet right now is some 7 billion, 10 billion people with a given knowable technology we have at this point. It may be an upper limit because we have to go beyond this planet, obviously. If you're any kind of optimist about science, have to go beyond this planet. So is there beyond that 7, 10 billion, whatever the number is, 100 billion? But beyond that, how about 10 times that population? Can that successfully be transferred in the next 200 years? Start to transfer to an habitation of space? Yes, I can definitely see that. So I can see a couple things like that. I can see that can happen. I can see the powers of the human mind can be massively expanded in terms of the additions that we will achieve with the good use of artificial intelligence as a tool, as it should be. We can increase the working knowledge and hypothesis generation to make advancement upon advancement. We can make leaps, quantum leaps, leaps along a step function, which is non-linear, but it allows you to go off in a hyperbolic direction, non-linear leap, because what you've done is, in terms of science, reimagining the resource base, reimagining. And that goes back to what I started this video with, the idea of imagination of the future, where I've just laid out to you a few ideas of how I would imagine the future. But there's another level I want to speak to this on. It's a bit of a more abstract, perhaps, but what it does is it draws lessons from the history of human thought. Certain conundrums, paradoxes that are yet unresolved in human history, for example. And what I've recently written, I'm looking at right now, and I wrote that a beautiful pathway that accepts necessity in order to attain freedom is paramount in human attainment. Now, there's a paradox which emerges out of that very simple concept. And what that paradox is this: how is it possible that imperfection and a willfulness to stop the pathway, to shunt humanity away from that type of pathway, how can that coexist with the pathway which is based on the idea of continuous perfecting of human practice? So this issue is that one of the questions comes up in the form of freedom versus necessity. Because in an imperfect world, which we will, as far as axiomatically, we can almost say we will always be in an imperfect world, capable of perfection, capable of further harmony in the terms, in well-defined terms, put it that way. By harmony, you mean, I mean, and humanity means making our practice more perfect, increasing the lifespan, increasing the health, mental well-being, arts and science, making those endeavors the uttermost desired roles for humanity, because they're that important. So freedom will, first of all, meet necessity. That is to say, as human beings in the finite world, there's a necessity which we must all meet. I'm living in a house here. There's four walls around me and a door. There's this technology in front of me, light. All that had to be met. That's necessity. For me to be coming to you, the technology I'm on had to be met, or I couldn't be coming to you like this. That's necessity. Before there was all this, I couldn't communicate with you, so it was the communication availability was less perfect. At least availability. So, in the context of seeing human history in the long span of that history, you have to even sort of free your own standpoint and reference frame. You know, Einstein's reference frames, what he formulated was that we necessarily all have an individual reference frame as we move, as bodies move. We're a body. We're part of that physical reference frame by necessity. We can't avoid it. I could be coming to you right now instead of in a house here 200 years hence. This could all be virtual reality. I might be somewhere entirely different. I might be on a space transport, for example. And all this has been generated behind me. And that will be the case, I'm sure. And these pictures will be out there. What they're used for, and are they culled through? Do you actually see within any of these pictures something that has a lasting consequence for humanity? And that's where a lot of these abstract concepts that I reference, I want to look at these queries, these dilemmas, these paradoxes from that abstracted standpoint, and then apply that. So one of the ideas, one of the apologies for the state, for say a horrible state of humanity, is that there's something inherent in humanity which is imperfect and you can't be overcome. That imperfection is built in. It prevents humanity from being anything other than long-term than self-destructive. So that's pessimism writ large. It's like a pessimistic worldview. And people don't realize how far they are governed by a worldview. They will take very little time in their own mental gymnastics of investigating how does my worldview been generated? What is it? What's it about? Is it wrong? Is it right? Is it consequential? Is it important? Is it not? Is it beautiful? Is my worldview itself modeled upon the idea of beauty, and that beauty and truth are in fact of the same generating substance, beauty and truth. They're of a kind of a generating substance, and that substance is the ongoing perfection of our practice. That's the substance. That's the truth. And if you look back at it, it's beauty. The fact that I sit in front of you right now and am recording this video in the cloud, so to speak, and that this can be transmitted to any part of the globe that has that technology available. That's beauty. That's beauty. And it is truth. Couldn't get here without truth being involved. Truth of electromagnetic waves, truth of digital transforms. Two things taken together. So, in a sense, you don't have to really demonstrate beauty, really, apart from just like what they philosophically call deixis, or the here and now, right now. I don't have to prove that there's a beauty, because what I'm doing right now proves it. Deictically, I say, here, this is beautiful. And it is, if you think about it, if you think about what beauty really is. Because beauty, to go back to what I started the conversation on, is a pathway. Beauty is a pathway. It's not a thing that's a goal or a snapshot, a still life. It's a pathway. And the pathway is in the human mind, human creative mind. That alone, that pathway in the human creative mind is beautiful, because what it does is it overcomes necessity. The overcoming of necessity, of the pathway of overcoming of necessity, that's beauty. You can say, okay, what humanity requires right now. Here's this table, here's the bill of requirements for humanity. Fresh water, transportation, energy, food, health, shelter, part of that. Adventure, from the standpoint of the adventure of putting rockets up there, and eventually putting settlements, if you want to call them that, on planets, and then perhaps artificial planets. That's my 200 years from now. Artificial planets that can carry colonies, or what you will, of humans about the galaxy, because their lifespan now may be thousands of years, remember. And you can say, I can't envision anything that's going to take less than thousands or perhaps millions of years to get to these far reaches. Can we overcome that in 200 years? I don't know. I would think to a large degree we are if we follow the pathway, we can be very close to that. Very close to that. So it's necessity. It's a struggle. That necessity is not something that's mere child's play. This is training. It's the fortitude. It's bringing to bear knowledge of all sorts, all kinds and sundry, together with a mission, a purpose to achieve this, because it's achievable and it's desirable, and perhaps it's absolutely necessary for survival. The only way we're going to survive. You know, instead of blowing each other up, as we still currently seem to be doing, we unite and say, look, there's common aims of humanity. Let's agree to that, for heaven's sakes. Let's not blow each other up to kingdom come. let's agree there's common aims of humanity and start there. That's the only place in which diplomacy for the pathway, the beautiful pathway I'm talking about, that awaits humanity, to allow our further development, the development, true development, which, as I am saying, I can show you true development is beautiful. Here it is. So that kind of wraps up what I wanted to say tonight. It's a little less than a half hour, so I hope you appreciate it. If you do, share it with friends, share it on other platforms, hit the like and the subscribe button. Now, subscribe does not mean that you're paying me or anybody else. You're not paying this service. You don't have to. It's free. It's free as long as you have electricity. So subscribing simply means that you want to say, well, this is important. I want to let you know, let others know. These ideas are important if we are to succeed. With that, I'm going to let you go. Have a good evening. Take care.